Russia's most important lifeline to the Black Sea has just snapped, and the consequences are far greater than a damaged port. For the first time since the invasion of Ukraine, Vladimir Putin has lost control over the Caspian energy artery that feeds billions into Russia's economy. Because Kazakhstan, Moscow's longtime partner and the owner of 80% of the oil flowing through Russia's Caspian pipeline, has now announced it is shutting down and redirecting its exports. The $15 billion energy route that Russia depends on has collapsed in real time, and it started the moment Ukraine struck the Black Sea port of Novorossiysk, Russia's most important oil terminal. On the morning of November 29th, Ukraine launched a precision drone attack on Novorossiysk, hitting the loading points of the Caspian Pipeline Consortium, the CPC line that carries Kazakhstan's oil through Russian territory to the Black Sea. This port wasn't just another target, it was the beating heart of Russia's energy export system. But that morning, the heart failed. Explosions rocked the harbor, flames lit the water, and the pipeline's operations halted. At the same time, two of Russia's Shadow Fleet tankers, Syros and Virat, were destroyed by Ukrainian naval drones, leaving Russia's covert oil smuggling fleet burning in open waters. Together, these hits shattered the myth that the Black Sea was Russia's safe backyard. It is now a battlefield Russia cannot defend. But the real geopolitical earthquake didn't strike in Moscow. It erupted 2,000 kilometers east in Astana. Because while Putin was dealing with fires in Novorossiysk, Kazakhstan was dealing with something far more serious, an 80% collapse in its oil transport capacity. Overnight, the Kazakh government faced the fact that its national income depended on a Russian port that could be struck at any moment. Kazakhstan's Ministry of Energy released a furious statement condemning the attack and reminding Moscow that the CPC route is an international civilian project involving Chevron, Exxon, and major Western investors. The message between the lines was unmistakable. Your war is now destroying our economy. If you cannot protect your own port, why should we risk our national income through you? This moment was Kazakhstan's turning point, its chance to break free from Russia's logistical grip. For decades, Kazakhstan relied on the CPC route because it was cheap, easy, and powered by Russian influence. But relying on Russia also meant one thing. Within hours, it announced plans to accelerate alternative export routes that bypass Russia entirely. And when we look at the map, the solution becomes obvious. The oil must flow south, across the Caspian Sea, into Azerbaijan, and then through the Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline, one of the safest and most modern pipelines in the world. This route transports oil to Turkey's Mediterranean port of Ceyhan, under NATO protection and far from Russian missiles. This isn't just a logistical shift, it is a geopolitical revolution. Kazakhstan is breaking away from Moscow's orbit and turning toward the Turkic world, Turkey, and the West. And the United States has been quietly preparing for this moment. Just weeks before the Novorossiysk attack, Kazakhstan signed over $17 billion in agreements with Washington. Among them was a $4.2 billion railway modernization deal with Wabtec, America's largest freight locomotive manufacturer. At first glance, locomotives seem unrelated to geopolitics.
It is the third such attack on Russian-flagged vessels in the Black Sea in recent days. Ukraine was behind these as they were targeting sanctioned tankers which were headed to a Russian port to load oil for foreign markets. They're part of Russia's Shadow Fleet, which use opaque ownership and management structures to conceal their cargo. Those attacks were attempts by Kyiv to put pressure on Moscow's oil sector, which it uses to finance the war. Russia's President Putin warned of consequences if such strikes continue.
What
the Ukrainian armed forces are doing is piracy.
But they are the backbone of the Trans-Caspian Energy Corridor, the route the U.S. wants Kazakhstan to rely on instead of Russia. Washington's message to Kazakhstan was strategic and crystal clear. Move your oil and minerals west through the Caspian Sea. Don't rely on Russia. But Russia isn't the only power watching Kazakhstan. China is also moving rapidly. As Russia bleeds in Ukraine, Beijing is expanding its influence across Central Asia. Chinese belt and road investments in Kazakhstan exceeded $23 billion in just the first half of 2025. This money is not charity. It is buying political leverage, infrastructure ownership, and long-term dependence. If Kazakhstan loses access to Western markets, China becomes its only customer. And China China never hesitates to exploit monopoly power. It will push prices down and tighten its grip. This is Kazakhstan's nightmare, escaping Russia only to fall into China's hands. That is why redirecting oil to Baku and Ceyhan is not just an economic decision. It is a national survival strategy. The Turkic world offers the only escape route from both Russian military pressure and Chinese economic domination. But tensions with Russia didn't begin at Novorossiysk. The real cracks formed earlier.
Firstly, we would extend the range of our strikes on vessels and boats entering Ukrainian ports. The most radical solution is to cut Ukraine off from the sea. Then piracy will be impossible for Ukraine in principle.
Невозможно будет заниматься пиратством в принципе.
Meanwhile, the Turkish owner of a Russian-linked oil tanker that was damaged by explosions near Senegal's coast last week said on Tuesday that it was ceasing all shipping operations involving Russian interests.
When Ukraine struck the Orenburg gas processing plant, one of Russia's most strategic facilities, Kazakhstan depended on that plant for winter heating. When it was hit, Kazakhstan realized something terrifying. Russia cannot protect its own energy network, let alone guarantee Kazakhstan's safety. The fallout spread to the borders. Satellite images showed massive truck queues as Russian authorities began blocking trade, consumed by paranoia and suspicion. Kazakhstan responded with bureaucratic retaliation, slowly choking Russia's logistical arteries in return. The relationship, once described as an unbreakable partnership, deteriorated into a silent economic war. Ukraine's strikes on Novorossiysk delivered the final blow. Kazakhstan understands that every barrel of oil flowing through Russia enriches a country that cannot guarantee stability, safety, or security.
Russian authorities said 2 foreign vessels have been damaged in the attack on Tuapse, one of the biggest oil terminals on the Black Sea, sparking a fire. As a result of the drone attack on the port of Tuapse on the night of November 2nd, 2 foreign civilian ships were damaged, the emergency operation headquarters of the Krasnodar region said in a statement. The operational headquarters said there were no casualties among the crews of the ships and that all fires have been extinguished, but that the buildings and infrastructure of the terminal have sustained damage. This story comes over now from Maritime Executive. Video from the time of the attack recorded a loud sound of piston engine drones indicative of a long range.
And the cost to Russia is enormous. Moscow loses transit fees on every barrel. It loses the ability to blend Kazakh oil with Russian oil to bypass sanctions. And it loses billions in foreign exchange. More importantly, Russia loses control. Because when Kazakhstan turns the valve toward Baku and Ceyhan, Russia cannot stop it. The Novorossiysk attack created a strategic cascade. The U.S. is providing financing. Turkey is offering safe ports. Ukraine is eliminating the old Russian routes. Together, they have cornered Russia's influence in the region. Kazakhstan's breakaway from the CPC route is not a temporary move. It is the declaration of independence from Russia's energy empire. And for Putin, this is devastating. Losing the CPC link means losing one of the few remaining levers of influence Moscow had over Central Asia. The Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline offers Kazakhstan something Russia never could: security, NATO protection, modern infrastructure, and access to European markets without fear of missiles. Kazakhstan's oil would travel through a corridor untouched by the chaos of the Black Sea. And if fully utilized, this pipeline could shift the balance of energy supply in Eurasia. For Russia, this is the beginning of economic strangulation. Kazakhstan's new strategy is clear. It will not let Russia dictate its future. It will not allow China to become its only lifeline. It is building a third path, a steel corridor through the Caspian Sea, connecting east and west without Moscow's permission. This is a historic shift, the end of Kazakhstan's energy marriage with Russia and the rise of a new Eurasian energy map. The only question now is whether Kazakhstan will fully commit. Will it risk Putin's retaliation and completely reroute its oil to Baku and Ceyhan? And will Washington and Ankara seize this moment to reshape Central Asia's energy future? The maps are changing, the pipelines are shifting, and Russia is watching its Caspian dominance collapse in real time. Thank you for watching.